Hello and welcome. Today we are on the final of our three-part journey to create a Plex Media Server appliance. Last time we had a lengthy session during which we set up our Plex Media Server on our Ubuntu appliance. Today we're going to look at various options that allow us to load data and maintain the server. In my Plex I have two devices. Simple reason for this is that one of these devices is my actual live Plex media appliance. Plex App is an appliance I have set up for the purposes of this demo. That explains why two entries appear. In our tutorial, we always focus on Plex App. So the first thing we're going to do is to create within Plex the folders that Plex will use to stream our content. So in order to do that, we need to log in into our appliance, and I'm going to do that through my Windows computer. As you can see, I need to specify the IP address of the appliance, which was done last time. The port is 32400 and /web/index.html. So when I press enter, I'm presented with the Plex logo, and then I'm going to be asked to enter my credentials. Now, I've already done that. If you don't have an account, you can create an account in Plex. And once that happens, I am shown the introductory screen. It gives me an explanation of how Plex works. It tells me how to organize my information, and finally it shows me that once I have the appliance running, I can stream on various devices I have available to me. I'm going to say got it. Next question is, what name do I want to call my Plex appliance? I could give it a friendly name. This is the name we specified last time. I'm going to allow that to stay unchanged. The last checkbox I have here is whether you want to allow Plex to be accessible from outside your home. I'm going to leave the default here as well, and I'm going to say next. Then we have a bit of crunching, and we are asked to organize our media. Now this is through the introductory screen. I'm going to add a library now. I'm going to specify what type of library I want. So I'm going to choose movies. I can change the name. For my purposes here, I'm going to leave it as movies. And I'm going to specify where I want to browse my media. If you recall though, last time we created the Plex Media Library, and here I had created these three folders. So in my case, I'm going to specify movies here, and I'm going to add the library. I can add additional libraries, and I'm going to have TV shows, leave the default, browse, root, Plex Media Library, TV, say add. If you want, you can type it directly, but point and click might be easier. Finally, I'm going to have, I believe it's photos, one click, and I have photo. As you can see, Plex allows, other videos, music. I'm going to say next. I'm going to now, if I want, choose the apps, but that's beyond the scope of my tutorial here. What I'm being told here is that even though we have defined the folders, there aren't any library content, there aren't any files for us to show. And we're going to now see how to fill those in. One of the easiest ways to load content onto your appliance is through your Windows machine. When we installed PuTTY, it came with a function that allows us to copy directly a file from our Windows machine onto our appliance. In order to do that, I'm going to open a command prompt, and if you look on my desktop, I have a photo directory. So I'm going to go there, and if I show the directory, I have photos. If I look into photos, you will see that I have two subdirectories, farmhouse and linesman quarters, and a number of photos in each. The utility we're going to speak about is called PSCP. This utility, it's PuTTY's secure client copy. To use this utility, what you need to do is specify the command, options, source, and the target. Our source is this folder. The target is the Plex Media Library Photos directory. So we're logging into PuTTY and looking at the directory. If you know where this directory resides, you don't need to do the PuTTY step. You can go directly through PSCP. As I mentioned last time, if you type sufficient characters to uniquely identify a folder, you don't need to not type it in its entirety. All you have to do is press tab once. If there are, and this is something I realized might not have been clear last time, if there are multiple matches to the letters you've typed, the first tab does nothing, the second tab shows you all the files that match. In my case, it's unique, so the first tab brings up the folder name. And in my case, I want that folder. So this is the folder I want, and as you can see, it is at the moment empty. I'm going to take PSCP. One option that I need to have is the R option, because as we saw, there are a number of subfolders that needs to be copied as well. In my case, it's going to be PSCP, option R. So I'm taking all files in the photos. What do I need to do? I need to specify the user, that is administrator, the host, which is the IP address. Here we have it, administrator at 192.168.19, and the target, which in this case is Plex Media Library Photos. So let's do that. Let's copy a bit. Now, just Control C, V, and there I have it. Command recurse everything in photos. This is the account, this is the IP, and this is the directory where I want to put it. Once I press enter, I'm asked to enter my administrator password, and as you can see, the files are being transferred. Everything got transferred, and if I now repeat my list command in photos, you will see that I have farmhouse and linesman's quarters. Last time we used the chmod command to change the file attributes. I'm not going to repeat this command. I just want to point out that unless you have flagged a file as being deletable, if you attempt to delete a file from within Plex, it won't work simply because the delete attribute is not there. This is something you should keep in mind. Write attributes need to be there in order for you to delete. In my case, I'm not going to delete at this stage. I'm just going to leave everything as it is. So if I open my browser now and I refresh, and there we have them. My photos have loaded, and one of the functions of Plex is the ability to show these photos. That demonstrates how you can upload, and in my opinion, this is the simplest way to upload a file. Now we're going to look at a scenario in which you have media on a USB pen drive. I'm going to plug in my USB pen drive into my Windows machine, and if you look closely on my media drive, I have 4 episodes from the 1960 series Tate, which I have downloaded from the Internet Archive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the media from my Windows machine, and I'm going to plug it in to my appliance. If you happen to have a large media drive, you may want to permanently leave your USB device connected and map within Plex the folders you have on your device. Let me go back into Windows, invoke PuTTY, and connect to my appliance. Now I'm logged in. Now, if I list the contents TV, you will see that that is empty. In order to use a USB drive, you need to mount it. In Windows, that is done automatically. In our case, I'm going to invoke the command to do that. The command fdisk/l with sudo shows me the devices I have. And if you look closely, I have 2 devices, one of them representing the hard disk on which Ubuntu is installed, and /dev/sdb1 is the pen drive. What is important to note is the file type, and in this case it is FAT32. That is very important to note because the mount command will vary depending on whether it is a FAT drive or if the file system is NTFS. So in our case, we're going to mount the drive. When we're going to mount a FAT16 or FAT32 USB, this is the mount command we would use. I would like to thank those who have provided this information. The mount command has 2 particular entries that are of interest to me. One is /dev/sdb1. That is the device name. The /media/external is the file system directly where that mounted device will load into. This is a directory and it must be defined. So if I list this directory, you will notice that I do not have an external. So I need to create that. In this case, I'm going to create the folder that will be associated with the device. I'm not going to invoke this command. Command has been completed, and now if I list the content, you will see that I have 2 folders, one of them system volume information, which doesn't interest me, and the other it is TV. Before I continue, if I wanted to directly access content on my mounted drive, what I could do is manage my library, edit, and add an additional folder like so. So now my TV shows Plex folder will be made up of 2 appliance folders. One of them is on the hard disk itself, the other one is on the external media. So this should address that situation where you don't want to physically transfer the files, you only want to access the USB itself. In my case, I'm going to transfer the media, so I'm just going to cancel that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the media from my USB drive to my hard disk. And that I'm going to use the copy command. If you need help on the copy, you can invoke the help flag. I need to recurse. The copy requires copy source. And I'm going to copy with this. Now, if you have a large number of files, you may want to specify the verbose option just to see some activity going on. So that is going to copy all media from external TV to Plex TV. Let's hit enter. And as you can see, the files are currently being copied. If your USB is NTFS rather than FAT, the mount command would be the following. So this you need to take note that the mount command varies depending on the type of file system your external media is formatted as. Once you have finished, as you would and as you should do in Windows, you need to unmount the device. And now if I attempt, to list it, it's no longer shown. Before I can proceed, let me verify my Plex Media directory. And as you can see, my access rights are, I have full, it's a directory, I have full here, I have read here, and world has nothing. I'm going to change that. Full rights to all the files in this directory. So read, write, and execute. And now if I list the contents, you will see that everything has full access on the folder. If you want to prevent these files from being deleted from within Plex, you can remove the write functionality. We have loaded the file, and if I go into libraries, I'm confirming where my libraries are. It's Plex Media Library TV. Let's go to TV shows. There you see, Tate has come up, and if I play it, the episode comes up. So now my Plex is loading the material I had on my pen drive. The last scenario we're going to look at is one in which you have content on your Windows machine and you would like to be able to access this content from within your Plex appliance. The scenario here describes a situation where this content on your Windows machine is shared to your Plex Media Server. I have a Plex Media library on my Windows machine, and in movies I have a movie downloaded from the Internet Archive, Hercules Against the Moon Men. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to create a Windows account that Plex will be able to access. I go into Computer Management. I go under Local Users and Groups, and I'm going to create a new user which I'm going to call Plex Agent. I'm going to give that a password. My username is Plex Agent. My password is a password I've set here, and this computer is not part of a domain, so I'll leave that here. I will be using these later on, so I'm going to copy my password here. Password never expires, and I'm going to create this, and I should have Plex Agent, and I'm going to give Plex Agent the role of a user. It's within the users group, and there is my Plex Agent. If I go to my Plex Media library and I look at security, users have read and execute, list, and read. They do not have write. So for them, they won't be able to delete content here. If you want to give them that facility, you will need to adjust the groups accordingly. I invoke PuTTY and I connect to it. And here we go. What follows is a one-time process. You need to define a credentials file. This will hold your user details and will be used to access that folder. I'm going to use the text editor and I'm going to edit Win credentials in the etc folder. Since this is an elevated privilege, I have to type in the password. Within this file, I'm going to paste the username, password, and domain I have generated in Windows. To write to the file, it's Control O, and I'm keeping the same file name, and Control X will allow me to exit. If I need to dump the file, that is the contents I have in it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test that the credentials have worked. And in order to do that, just as I did when I mounted a USB drive, I have to define the folder. So in this case, I'm going to call it Plex, and it is going to be in the media folder. And yes, I have Plex here. The command to do this is the following. Let me clear the screen. Before I can do that, I need to determine the IP address of my Windows machine. I'm going to invoke the command prompt and I'm going to ipconfig. And I know my IP address is 192.168.16.27. Here again, same reasoning we discussed in the first of this 3 series. If you're going to have content on a Windows machine, you're going to access it from Plex, you need to make sure that the IP address of your Windows content it doesn't change. Otherwise, Plex will no longer manage to get to the content. After I have created my user, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this folder and I am going to share it. And it is not shared. I'm going to say share. I'm going to add Plex. I'm going to give it read access. And now you will notice that I have shared the folder as Plex Media Library. That concludes the sharing part. Let's move now to PuTTY. To test that everything works well, I'm going to mount pretty much as I did my USB Plex Media Library as media associated with the folder Plex Media Share. So I'm going to copy this command. CIFS stands for Common Internet File System. So I've shared and all of a sudden I get the prompt. If I list the contents of media Plex Share, you will see that I am seeing the folders and this is on my Windows machine. Now, don't forget, just to clarify, we're doing everything from the Windows environment, but this PuTTY window is actually executing on the appliance. And if I delve into movies where I know I have my Hercules, I can see that it has been listed here. I know that this works. This was simply a test to verify that the connectivity is okay. I don't need it mounted. So I'm going to unmount the share. I want this to be permanent. I want that this share comes up every time I boot into Plex. In order to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to edit. We've used this command just now. Let me clear this file. And this file system information, static file system information, holds with it mount points. So it holds within it shares that will be loaded every time Ubuntu starts. And in this file, I'm going to add this line. To paste text is the IP address. Again, if you want to have such a situation, it helps to ensure that the machine IP doesn't change. The share, you've shared under Windows, the mount point, and you need to have a tab or a space between one and the other. The file system, I'm going to refer down here because it's simpler. The credentials, where the credentials are stored, that is where we defined these entries, and other details related to the file system. Now, these I sourced them from other sources. This has been done. So what I'm going to do now is write the file and exit. You can either reboot the machine, or if you want to execute the file we've just modified immediately, you mount. And just to verify, I might still have the command in the buffer. There it is. We've done that. There is read access, at least for each group, so that is good. You sometimes encounter a problem where Plex does not seem to be able to find content. One area you should check is that all the groups have read access. I'm going to my Plex. I am going to manage my library, and I'm now going to add my Plex share. So this is something we did with the USB. The same reasoning applies here. This is locally on my appliance, and now I'm going to add my Plex share media. And I'm going, in this particular case, to share move. These are the two folders, internally and the folder I just did now. I say save. That is scanning, and if I go into Plex App Movies, there we go. It is shown here. And as you can see down here, I have my movie. Your Plex Media Server appliance needs updates both at the operating system level as well as at the Plex appliance itself. When you log in to your Plex Media Server, you may at times see an alert that when you click it, as I'm doing here, you will see that there is an available update. If you click the download now link, what happens is that the Ubuntu package is downloaded to your Windows machine, and then you have to manually update. What I'm going to talk about now is how to update at the server level. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into our tool PuTTY, which by now you realize makes life very easy for us. And whenever I log in, I may occasionally see something such as this. Updates can be installed immediately. That tells me that there are updates. Whenever there are critical updates, you may be prompted to reboot your server, in which case you would type sudo reboot, which automatically causes Plex to go into a reboot and apply any updates. Rather than update Plex on its own, what one could do is update all the packages in Ubuntu. So this will update Plex as well if there are other packages that need to be updated. There are two commands you use to do this. The first command, the update command, that goes through the packages and starts updating. I have now that there are packages that can be updated. If I would like to see what they are, I can type the command shown here, and that will list various packages that need updating. To do the actual update, you would invoke the command sudo apt upgrade. We are told that more disk space is required. Do we want to proceed? And we say yes. Depending on the amount of updates you have, it could take a different amount of time. Last time I mentioned the shutdown command, and if you recall, the shutdown I used plugged in a delay. Now, if you want to shut down your appliance without having to have that delay, you can invoke the command shutdown now. Occasionally, after you've updated your Plex Ubuntu appliance, you will notice that when you enter Plex web interface, it will still report that there is a server update available. If that is the case, you have to repeat the process, the update process again. In our case, we'll log back in to our appliance via PuTTY, and the first thing we're going to do is request the package updates that are available through sudo apt update. If you look closely, one of the packages is in fact Plex TV. That tells us that there is an update we can apply. To get more information about the packages, here we'll delve deeper since it's a Plex upgrade. We repeat the command apt list with the option upgradable. If you look closely, you will see that there is an upgrade that takes us from 1.19.3 in our case to 1.19.4. That is the upgrade we are applying. To do the actual upgrade, we use sudo apt upgrade. All these commands we have used a few minutes ago when we were updating other packages. The upgrade process takes place, and at the end of the installation, we are told that everything has been updated. If we log back into our Plex web interface, you will notice that Plex app no longer is showing as a server update available. The other server, as I mentioned earlier on, is my personal appliance. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and I hope that you can create your own Plex appliance. If you have any questions, ask in the forum. There's a very good and active Plex forums available, or you can ask here. Thank you very much, and if you can, please subscribe.